Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today I'm doing a video for the Paint Couture creative team. I'm going to be creating an Easter decoration. I'm going to begin by gluing the two sides of this plastic egg decoration together using some Gorilla Super Glue gel. I'm going to apply a strip of that glue along the inside part of that egg decoration and then bring the two sides together. When the glue was dry, I took out Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer in white. I'm applying that over the top of my plastic surface with a makeup sponge. I'm going to be doing one coat, letting it dry for about an hour, then adding a second coat. This is going to make sure that my paint sticks and stays there. Once my primer was completely dry, I took out Paint Couture's Farmhouse Linen Chalk Paint. I'm going to be applying 2 coats of this over the top of my dry primer. Again, I am using a makeup sponge. I just really like the eggshell type finish that this provides. When that was dry, I took out Redesign's Bunny Trails and Bunny Blossoms Transfers, and I'm going to be using this sweet little design here with the rabbit and the Easter eggs. I did, however, feel like it was a little bit too much having those extra leaves on the sides, so I am going to trim those off. I will put these off to the side and save them though, because you never know when these little transfer off cuts will come in handy. Because I'm adding this to a round surface, I'm going to add a few little cuts in there to make it a bit easier for me to have this wrap around my surface. I've peeled off the backing of the transfer and now I'm going to position it in place, and then I'm going to start rubbing the transfer down with my transfer stick that comes in the pack, and I'm going to work in sections. Now, because I am adding this over the top of a curved surface, I am going to get little wrinkles here and there. That's just something that can't really be helped when you're dealing with a transfer on a curved surface, but I am going to be using Crackle shortly, so that will definitely disguise any of those wrinkles. I'm also using my fingers to gently press the transfer down to make sure it's really well adhered. And on the other side, I'm going to be using this little daisy design. I really like to have a design on each side of my decorations whenever I do these kinds of projects. If you don't have access to transfers, you could definitely use decoupage paper or napkins for this kind of project instead. Next, I took out Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Satin, and I'm going to be applying 2 coats over my entire project. This is going to seal in those transfers and protect them before I start adding any other products to them. I'm applying it on both sides of the egg. When that was dry, I took out Redesign's Easter Wreaths mold, and I'm dusting one of those designs with cornstarch, and then I'm going to roll out some air dry clay and start working that into the mold. And I'm using my fingers to push out that excess. I'm then going to flex that mold, flip it over, and gently curl that mold back to release the castings. I then added some Sealy's Quickset wood glue to the back of the casting. You can see I have already pulled the casting apart. This just makes adding it to the egg a bit easier. And then I'm going to gently pick that up and start forming that to the outside part of the egg. Now, I did have part of that break off a little bit, and then I actually decided to just pull the whole thing off and just reposition it. Now, this is still wet clay, so I am able to join those pieces back up. I just really needed to do this to get it to into the shape that I wanted for this project. And then up the top, I am going to use a palette knife to cut off that excess clay at the top. Next, I took out a bow mold, and I'm going to work my air dry clay into that design, again just pushing out that excess clay. And then I'm going to flex the mold and flip it over and gently pull that mold back to release the casting. I then used some more of my Sealy's Quickset wood glue on the back of my clay casting, and I'm going to be layering that over the top of the Easter wreaths casting up the top there, and just having those little tail ends of the bow ribbon draping down the front. I then took out Paint Couture's Crackle Step 1, and I'm going to apply that over the top of the front and back of my egg decoration. I did give my molds a couple of hours to sort of form a crust so that I didn't risk squishing them. And once I'm finished applying Crackle Step 1, I'm going to give that about 30 minutes to dry. It will feel sticky and tacky to the touch. And then I'm going to come in with Crackle Step 2. I'm applying Crackle Step 2 in the same places and in the same way as I did with Crackle Step 1. And I am going to make sure that I give this a really decent amount of time to dry. I actually left it overnight so that I didn't risk reactivating it when I came in the next day with Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Antiquing Glaze. You definitely want to give that crackle enough time to dry. I'm applying the glaze over the top of the front section of the egg to begin. I'm going to work in sections, and then I'm going to grab a wet wipe and I'm going to start wiping that back. If there's any areas that I wipe a little bit too much back from, I can go back in and I can add some more of that glaze. I'm then going to be starting to add it to the castings. I really like to use this glaze to bring out the details and to give my castings definition before I go in and start adding any sort of paint or colors over the top of those. And of course, I'm adding it to the back section over those lovely flowers. When the glaze was dry, I took out Paint Couture's Basil chalk paint, and I'm going to be applying it over the top of the areas where we have the leaves and the stems. And I'm not worried about full coverage here because I am going to be going back in with a wet wipe soon, and I'm going to begin to wipe back some of that. I do want this to have more of a weathered and vintage sort of faded look to it. And I'm going to just continue to work my way around, adding that Basil chalk paint over the top of all of the sections where we have that greenery. If I inspire you to try any of the Paint Couture products used in today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link. You will find it in the description below. Next, I took out Paint Couture's French Rose Mineral Paint, and I'm going to be applying that to some of the flowers. Not all of them. I do want to bring in a couple of other colors and have this be a bit more of like a colorful garden style scene. So I'm just going over the top of a couple of those florals. And then once I'm finished adding that lovely French Rose mineral paint, I then took out Paint Couture's Spanish Sunrise mineral paint, and I'm actually dabbing that over the top of the smaller little sort of wildflowers. That's what they look like to me anyway. I'm just dabbing that over the top. I don't need to be super neat with these. And I'm going to continue to work my way around until I've added that over the top of those flowers. Next, I took out Paint Couture's Oyster Pearl Luxe Metallic Paint, and I'm going to go over the top of the ones that look like little daisies. I really love using Oyster Pearl because it does give us that beautiful shine. It's just a really nice pop of shine. So I'm just adding that over the top of those. And then once that is dry, I'm going to be taking out Paint Couture's Pacific Pearl chalk paint, and I'm offloading a lot of that onto a paper towel, and I'm doing dry brushing. So this is really going to bring some more definition to the high points. It's going to soften some of those colors. I can see a lot more of the stems of the flowers when I do this. So as I said, it's going to bring out that definition as well. And this is definitely a technique that I like to do, especially when I'm working with pastels. When that was dry, I took out Paint Couture's Antique Gold Luxe Metallic Paint, and I'm going to be adding that to the center of the flowers that we've already added the Oyster Pearl and the French Rose to. I really love this pop of shine. And then I went in and started adding it over the top of some of the areas where I had already added the Spanish Sunrise paint. I really like how, again, this is going to highlight those details. And then I moved on to adding Paint Couture's Ballet Slipper Luxe Metallic Paint to the bow up the top. I felt like this tied in really well with the rest of the colors that we've already used, and also with the beautiful bunny image on the front. I only needed to do one coat, and I did allow a lot of that Van Dyke Brown glaze to peek through as well, so that we still had that definition and that vintage sort of a look. I then decided to go in and start dabbing a little bit of that ballet slipper over the top of the florals where I added the French Rose. Not to completely cover it, but just to bring in another bit of a tone to those flowers and a little bit more shine. Finally, I took out this green ruffled edge ribbon. I'm going to thread that through the little hole up the top there that we have there for hanging. I'm going to pull out as much as I'm going to need, trim that off. I'm also going to tidy up the end of the other ribbon as well, and then I'm just going to tie a simple knot so that if someone wants to hang this up, they can. And here's a look at our finished Easter decoration. I think this turned out really sweet, and the Paint Couture paint colours complement the Redesign Transfer perfectly. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, we would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the videos from the Paint Couture creative team. Thanks for watching.